This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Mike Sedita.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast presented by 16W Media Group. I'm your host, Mike Sedita. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Richel Martinsen. She is the CEO of ACE Solutions Title Group. Richel, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. And you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm dodging a few raindrops. It's that time of year here in Florida. But other than that, things are going great. I appreciate you coming on the podcast with us. Just to give you a little update about what the Good Neighbor Podcast is and how we got started. Back during COVID, the Good Neighbor Podcast was born as a way for business owners like you to get your message out to the community. So you had to be socially distant back in 2020. This was a way to connect to residents and local communities to get your message out. And over the last 4 years, there's Good Neighbor Podcasts all over the United States, Denver, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Atlanta, everywhere. I'm lucky enough to be the guy here in Tampa that gets to talk to folks like you. So with that being said, tell us a little bit about ACE Solutions Title Group.
Okay, ACE Solutions Title Group. I've been in the title industry business over 40 years, and I've worked with a lot of title companies and all that. So I decided 7 years ago to open up my own, which is ACE Solutions Title Group. So I've been in business for, ACE Solutions has been open for 7 years. We are now licensed in 5 states, Florida, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and our newest licensed state is Arizona, which is also I'm going to have a physical office in Lake Havasu City, Arizona.
Okay, wait a minute. So let me ask you this. You have a physical office in Florida and Arizona. Is that so you could have a place to go where it's nice weather? I don't see you setting up an office in Minnesota or Wisconsin, just Arizona and Florida.
Yes.
Basically. All right, just checking. Continue. I just had to make sure we clarified that.
Okay. So Lake Havasu City, our grand opening ribbon cutting on the Lake Havasu City, Arizona will be on the August 23rd. So that's the most the project that I'm working on to launch that office. It is open right now, but then to introduce it to the community, it will be in the August 23rd.
Yeah.
And what basically ACE Solutions, I'm a title insurance agent. I'm a licensed title insurance agent through all those 5 states. And basically what we do is we are the middleman of the buyers and the sellers and realtors, and they give us all these contracts to set up the happening of closing of a house if someone's purchasing a house or selling a home.
Okay, so couple questions. Number one, the first question, you gave me Florida, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Arizona. What's the 5th state?
Florida, Minnesota, Tennessee. I'm sorry.
Tennessee. And then with the 2 offices, what's the staff like? Like, where's your office in Arizona is in what area? Like Tucson, Phoenix, where about?
Lake Havasu City, and the nearest airport for them is Vegas. You got to fly into Vegas, drive to Lake Havasu City.
I'm understanding why you chose this location. Warm weather, and you have to fly into Vegas. Okay, so where are you located here in Tampa?
2620 Sumerian Drive in Land O'Lakes.
In Land O'Lakes, okay. And how many people are in each of these like branch offices, if you will?
Okay, I have 2 over there in Arizona right now, and then I have 3 over here in Land O'Lakes. So I handle mostly of the closings, and I have another closer, and I have a processor, and I'm hiring a marketer to do the marketing and other things. So
well, we
the
can
company's
talk about
grown.
that. We could talk about the marketing side after this, but let me understand. So the grand opening in Arizona is 8/23. What was the reason 7 years ago? Like, was there like a light bulb? You just going, you know what? I'm tired of doing it for other people, or was there like a series of events, or was there like one issue? Like they just totally messed up something at the company you were at, and you're like, you know what? I've had enough. I need to start my own thing.
What really drove me to start my own thing is, number one, is I worked a lot of hours and not getting paid enough. And I'm very loyal and dedicated. And what I see for the companies that I work for, the clients are just numbers. And I don't like that. So I'm so huge in communication and customer service. I treat all my clients and any referrals to me as my own family. And so that's what I said. Nope, I can't do this. Working a lot of hours just to make somebody else rich, not happening. Off my back, not happening. So I finally said, nope, I'm going to do this.
So
And
let me ask you a question. I know in Florida, because I talked to a ton of realtors, a ton of attorneys, and a bunch of title folks. I know in Florida, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Most of your like connections that you probably network with and talk to are real estate agents and mortgage brokers, because they want to get their deals across the finish line, and having a good title company helps them do that. But is it true that an actual homeowner can choose the title company they would like to use because of either better service or better fees or whatever? They really have the driving. And is that the same in every one of your 5 states?
Yes.
Is that a national law, or you're only in 5 states?
No, because here in Florida, some of the county in Florida, the seller chooses a title company. Minnesota has 2 title company. So the buyer chooses one for them, and the seller chooses for them. So Minnesota and Wisconsin are the same. So the Midwestern, they can choose their own. So there's 2 title companies that
let me ask you. So if there's 2 title companies and you do your title all right, you have the buyer, I have the seller. We're in Minnesota, freezing because it's probably August and it's cold already. So I do my title search on my end for the buyer. You do yours for the seller. What happens if there's discrepancies?
We have to resolve the discrepancy. So what basically the title search is the commitment that we do. So the seller company, but the buyer of the title company of that buyer has to do the title search, because we're the one that's actually dispersing the money. The money is in the escrow on the buyer side in Minnesota.
Wow.
Here in Florida, we only have one title company. Whoever the seller chooses a title company, we're the one that disperses. So we have the escrow. So that's big difference.
So let me ask you this: the 3 folks you have in Land O'Lakes, are they doing titles in all? I'm sure the people in Arizona that are there are doing Arizona, but are people closing deals in all your other states, or do you have someone that works like remotely in Minnesota, someone that works remotely in Wisconsin? So you just don't have an office there, but you have people working remote.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, and so you said you have 5 people total in those 2 offices. How many people total do you have across all 5 states?
Well, the Tennessee and the Minnesota and the Wisconsin, I just hire like I get like a contractor, notary, contractor to do that, and then they just go into the real estate offices and all that. So
that's cool. I got you. So you have them up there in Tennessee, and they're going around making some connections to the different offices, going to their networking events to try to make those connections, and then trying to pull business in that way. But you don't have the overhead of the office and all that other stuff.
Correct, because I can't do that.
Yeah, I understand. Listen, in this economy right now,
it's
tough for everybody. Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, maybe things in the next 6 to 10 months are really going to start to turn around. We'll see. But anyway, that's a whole political discussion. We're here to talk about you and your business. So you said you've been doing this for 40 years. Tell us a little bit about your story. When you were a little girl, were you playing Monopoly and you wanted to, you got the thrill of buying Park Place and Boardwalk and you're like, I want to do this for a living? Or did you have dreams of being a doctor or a dentist or a veterinarian?
No, it's funny because I came from the Philippines back in 1981. We migrated here in Minnesota.
That is a shock. That's a culture shock.
Yeah. And my grandmother used to work for a bank, Norwest Bank, and she usually takes me to when she works. She'll take me there, and she'll explain things to me and all that stuff and what everybody does. So I got involved in the real estate and the mortgage industry very first time. And then I branched off to when I was 19. I was going to school, and then there was an opportunity, as it's called Minnesota Title back then. Now it's Old Republic Title. I was a clerk. I just open orders, and that's it. And then I just worked my way up, and I love and fall in love with the title industry. And I went to school, real estate school, and then
So do you have your real estate license as well?
No, I do not. Insurance license, I do.
Insurance for it. So there is something to, because like, look, the American dream is, owning a home, right? Like that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, all that, but owning a home and having your own little stake of land, being involved in that process, whether it's the realtor who helps you find the house or sell the house, or the mortgage company that gets you the rate that makes it manageable, or the title company that really makes the transaction smooth. I don't think people like on the street really realize the vitalness of having a good title company for the entire. Now, you have to have good underwriting with your mortgage company and all that stuff, but the title company kind of makes everything move along without any hiccups. If you have a bad title company, you could be sitting in a house that is owned by someone's nephew's brother's cousin from 100 years ago that you don't even know. So that's got to be gratifying for you, seeing it as an early age around your grandmother and then kind of coming up through, that's got to be super gratifying.
Yes, it is. It really is. And nowadays, there's a lot of fraud happening with in the real estate and all that, and it's all over. So I'm very much concerned about everybody's their assets. It's like when we do the title search to make sure that contract that you have is actually the owner of the house. And if there's any discrepancy, then that's when I dig in more and more and more. So behind the scene, there's a lot to be done. The most easiest is sitting in a closing table and facing everybody and explain documents and signing. That's the easiest part.
Right.
The hardest part is actually the back end of it. So the processing and all that, and making sure that the lenders are on schedule, that everything searches, the survey is scheduled, all of that stuff. So it's a lot. One file you can spend, if it's easy, you can spend about good 3 hours on it. And then the waiting around, because then you have to wait for that search to come in. You have to wait for this. Everything has to come in and put together.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question. You've been doing this for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
The process, I remember closings used to take 90 days. You know what I mean? So like, from your standpoint, how has the technology really, even though I understand the things you're saying, you got to wait for this to come back, but doing that compared to what you had to do 20 years ago, let alone 40 years ago, it's a totally different world, no?
Sure is. It sure is. Because back then, you actually, your searchers actually have to go to the courthouse and do the searching
Pull
and all
docs.
that. And pull docs. That takes a while. Now, it's just I just go into my system and then I just put order, and then whoever my underwriters will send it out for searches, and the same thing with the lien searcher survey. It's all online. Everything has the site. Everything has an app. Way back then, none of that. Actually, that person would actually go to the courthouse and do all of that.
That was you as the clerk. That's what you were doing, right? I'm assuming running back and forth.
Making copies and all that stuff. That's changed quite a bit and tremendously. Yes.
And not even to mention having to deal with public servants at the courthouse that are always the most pleasant people in the world to have to interact with. But so let me ask you, from taking all that into consideration, what is the biggest misconception that you run into from people? Do they think that you just press a button and the internet does every bit of the work? What are you educating people on as you're going through the process?
Well, right now, that's what they think. They think that all I have to do is push the button, right? And I have to explain it to them. There's a process with this. So when I do a continuing education for the realtors, we have like a Title 101 education. So we have to explain to them the process of what from the beginning to the end. Yes, it's possible that I can close a loan for a file in 7 days. Absolutely, it's possible. That's in a cash deal. That's because all I have to do is make the phone call and I go right to the top and they'll get me put in there and get what I need. So yes, but I can't do that to every file that comes in. But all the files that I treat are all the same. They're being treated. It just depends on when the closing is, and if everybody's rushing, then I'll put that rushes in front of everybody. If there's a file that's closing that till like 2 weeks ago, and then this one that got moved up for closing, definitely I'll work on that file. So it's just the rushes. I have to prioritize it.
Well, and the other thing too is every time you go into one of the look, I'm assuming I ran a call center and a financial service call center, and 90% of the garden variety cases were easy. Somebody called in, they wanted their balance. I'm assuming probably 90% of your title searches come back, relatively uneventful, but it's that 10%, that small amount that it's like, oh my God, this was transferred back in 1920 to so-and-so's cousin, and then tracking. Those are the ones that are like that's the ones I want to actually see, like the ones that are crazy. When I went to real estate school in Atlanta back in 1995, the guy who was doing the instruction was telling us, horror stories of like title search issues. Now in Georgia, I'm assuming it's kind of similar to Florida, like properties have been in families for 200 years. Like it's just, so there are so many little things like, Billy Joe Bob sold off 20 acres of their 10,000 acres to a cousin for 17 chickens back in 1910. I mean, but like legitimately, like crazy stuff like that. True. Those are the fun ones. Those are the 10% are the fun ones that, you want to, when you get into it. Have you ever had one where you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe how screwed up this is?
Yes, I have. Just recently, 2 months ago, it was a probate, and the father died, and then there was an ex-wife involved, but she died.
Ex-wives. Always the ex-wife. It's always the ex-wife that causes the problem.
And there's the 10 beneficiaries that I need to find and get their signatures and talk to them, and they're all over. And then there's
that's tough.
Yeah, that was really tough. And on top of that, they're all fighting each other. Why would I sign this? How should I trust you? Blah, 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 blah. Like, oh my Lord.
Yeah.
I've had those doozies. And I worked on that file for a good week, one day.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, do you run into? You're based out of Land O'Lakes, Florida. Land O'Lakes, Florida is like the sinkhole capital of the world. Like, there's more sinkholes in Land O'Lakes, Florida, than anywhere else in the world. Do you run into a lot of properties that have stuff like that on them, or you don't get involved in any of that? Like where there's,
I don't get involved in that
property.
simple.
Okay, yeah. So you're not clearing it for that. You're just clearing it for paperwork.
That's the homeowners insurance.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've now talked for almost 18 minutes about business, like serious, like American dream, finding people homes. When you're not in the office, when you're not working on the ex-wife and the 25 children, what do you like to do for fun when you're not in the office besides travel to Vegas?
Well, that's one thing. I like to travel. I like to go on vacation, but I've never had a vacation without me opening up my laptop and working.
Yeah. Well, that's part of being an entrepreneur. I mean, that is part of being an entrepreneur. So let me ask you this. Even though you opened your laptop on vacation, where's the last place you went that you absolutely loved, that you would say to listeners right now, I went to this place and it was fantastic?
It was a Portugal trip. It was one of a lifetime, Portugal. And the most recent one, because it was my birthday 2 weeks ago, it was the Grand Canyon. It was breathtaking.
Do you dive? Do you like to dive?
Skydiving or scuba diving?
Like isn't Grand Cayman like snorkeling and scuba diving?
Grand Canyon in Arizona.
Oh, Grand Canyon. See, now I am a little jealous about that because I really do want to go. Like, I'm not a big go to Europe kind of guy, but Grand Canyon I would love. Did you go down into it?
Yes, it was beautiful.
Really?
It was breathtaking. I mean, I teared up when I saw the first.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Like it's a
tears were coming down. Yes.
Yeah, it
was gorgeous.
So happy birthday, by the way. My birthday was about 4 weeks ago. So Portugal, though, was it like a trip to a resort, or did you go on a cruise? How did you do Portugal?
We flew to Portugal. Me and my sisters and my mom. We planned the girls trip to Portugal. So that was a lot of fun too, because we seen a lot of sightseeing and all that stuff. That was great. I enjoyed that. So.
And who did you go to the Grand Canyon with?
My sister and her fiance, and then my boyfriend and I went.
All right. No one was lingering near an edge. There was no issues. Like no one was having an argument. And like somebody had an accident because they were getting a little out of line. Like your fiance didn't get like or your boyfriend didn't get pushed.
No. But he was getting nervous because I was getting close to the edge. He's like, no. He was holding my shirt like, I'm not gonna fall. So stop pulling me.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm scared of heights. Like I had a bad experience as a little kid that just freaked me out. I want to see it, but I want to see it from about 10 steps back from the edge. I'm not the guy that gets right up close to it and leans over and looks, but it is definitely on my bucket list of places to go. And then
that was on my bucket list.
It was. Okay. So, I mean, I get it. I totally can relate to that. So now how far from a geography standpoint, the Arizona office, you fly into Vegas. Where is the Grand Canyon? It can't be that far. So it's got to be somewhere along there, right?
About 3 hours drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the one place I was very upset, or two places. So I was in Maui. I did the road to Hana. That was kind of cool. A little long, but I did it. But I was supposed to do a helicopter ride, like over stuff, but it was an overcast day. So that got canceled. And then I was in Vegas. It's got to be probably... Oh God, I feel old saying it. The gray hair in my beard tells, but it was probably about 20 years ago. I was in Vegas and I was supposed to go to the Hoover Dam. Like before we left, we booked the Hoover Dam trip. Mm-hmm. But wouldn't you know, like it was like a week or 2 weeks before I went, a helicopter had crashed in the desert in a storm, in like a sandstorm, and they discontinued doing those trips for a while. So I mean, fortunately, like I was knock on wood, I was okay, but I missed out on those two aerial views of places that I really love to see. The Hoover Dam I thought would have been really cool to check out. So Portugal and going on vacations. What else do you do for fun? Do you like the beach? I mean, we're about an hour from the beach where we are in Florida.
I mean, when I moved here in Florida, I like the beach now. I don't really go to the beach because there's too many people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I like the thought of being on the beach and the nice part of it. It's the getting there and sitting in one lane traffic where I'm like, muttering things under my breath on the ride that I'm like, why am I say it every time. As soon as I get closer to it and it starts to log jam, I'm like, why did I do this? Like, why did I subject myself to sand everywhere where it shouldn't be and this traffic on top of it?
If I'm going to go to the beach, I'm going to stay there for the weekend at a hotel.
Right. So let me ask you this. One of the things I like to ask, and you kind of touched on like having to bringing your computer on vacation because you never really get a break as an entrepreneur. But one of the things I love to ask entrepreneurs is, has there been a time in your life, personally or professionally, where you've run into a hardship and you've been dealt some lemons and you turned it into lemonade and come out the other side?
Oh yeah. The personally is like, I got divorced two years ago, and that was harsh because I was trying to get the divorce done and then owning a business. So it's just like, but I got through that really good, and I'm still standing right here. The business wise is the COVID. The COVID was harsh because we can't have anybody. We have to go into people's car for them to sign. They don't want to come into the office. Yeah, those were really hard. And I feel them, and that's when the rates are going down. So just like COVID hits, and then there's people wants to refinance or whatever. So that was tough.
So it was really busy. Tough. It was busy, but it was difficult. It was like difficult circumstances. This market right now, I would think, is probably a little difficult as far as transactional.
Yes, it is right now. So, but right now I'm steady. So that's a good thing. Good. But I would like to get more busier, but it's okay, because I can catch up with other things.
Right.
like I have that office in Arizona that's opening. I can focus on that a little bit too.
A little bit.
So, yeah.
And as we start to wrap this up, what is the one thing? Like, look, real estate agents, title companies, mortgage guys, I could throw a rock from my studio window and probably hit one of each. There's a lot of competition in your market. Yes. What's the one thing people need to know why they need to work with Ace Solutions Title Group as opposed to the other folks that are out there?
We answer our phones.
You answer your calls?
The phones, yes.
That's a big one. You get a person on the phone when people call.
Yep. Yep, yep. That's one, and also we communicate a lot. We communicate with everybody. Every step that we do, we let everybody know where we at with that, so nobody's lost. And persistent. I'm very persistent. So
we live in a very automated world right now. So much so, like, using something like LinkedIn, a social network, to reach out to try to connect when I'm trying to connect with people. I actually write in my connection. This is not an automated email. I am manually writing this message to try to connect to you, because we do live in a society where, that interpersonal connection with other people is lost. So having that connection is vitally important. If I want that personal connection, if I want to call and I want to reach you, what's the best way for the listeners to reach out and get a hold of you?
They can call me. I usually just give out my personal phone call, my cell phone. So if it's urgent enough, I answer my calls Saturdays. Agents calls me Saturdays, not Sundays, because I go to church. Sunday is my day. But they can call me.
You got to have at least one day.
Yeah. They can call me at the cell phone of 407-288-2123, because the office number is, there's nobody here. But if they're trying to get hold of me Saturdays, that's the number that they need to call me, and I will answer. If I don't answer, they leave me a voicemail, and I will get back to them right away.
Okay, so you said you weren't going to give your cell phone number, and we got the office number, and now I have both. So now I'm going to give both. So, folks, if you're listening to this and you are looking for someone who's going to pick up the phone, treat you like family, and give you the personal attention in the process, which, if you're a real estate agent and if you're a homeowner, or if you're a mortgage agent, a mortgage broker, going to closing is a stressful time for everybody. Looking for over communication to all parties involved, you need to reach out to Rochelle. It's Ace Solutions Title Group. The office number, which is what we were going to give, is 813-773-3909. Again, 813-773-3909. And her cell phone, since she already gave it, if you need to get a hold of her on Saturdays, it's 407-288-2123. Rochelle, thank you for being a good neighbor, and thank you for being on the Good Neighbor podcast. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Passcode. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnppasco.com. That's gnppasco.com, or call 813-922-3610.